A very good evening, everyone. I hope I'm clearly audible to you guys. आवाज आ रही है? All the people out there, I hope I'm clearly audible to all of you. So, I hope yesterday the kind of the discussion we had, you've got decent clarity on what we have studied in the previous class. So, you should have got a decent clarity in this regards, and similarly today's class also is going to go a step ahead. But before I even proceed with today's class, what we'll be doing is we are going to be just giving a quick recap to what we did yesterday. Got it? So yesterday we did study this one. Yeah, that's better. In the yesterday's class, we did what? We studied about what is economics. You know this word economics, what it is, we did the definition of it and we did that very much precisely. Then we also talked about the macro versus microeconomics, which is again a very important aspect in economics. Then we end up doing the various schools of economics, various school of thoughts of economics. The classical we did, Keynesian we did, and then we also talked about various economic systems. We also talked about the economic systems like capitalist, socialist, mixed. I also talked about the Bullock capitalist yesterday, which I'm sure you have understood well. Then we did talk about various sectors of economy. We talk about various sectors of economy, primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector. We did talk about tertiary, maybe we did talk about the quaternary sector and quinary sector, which I'm sure you must have understood by now. That is what we have done in yesterday's class. For those who were there in the yesterday's class, they know that these are the things we have covered yesterday and these are the very basics of economy. If you have to study economy properly, then you have to know about these very topics. Clear? Having said that, can you please, all of you, mute yourself? So that would be really helpful if you all can mute yourself. Chale. So now the best part is you can take the screenshots as well if you want. All of you are free to take the screenshots if you want. And I hope you have watched the video, the link of which I shared in the comment section yesterday, and that was relating to the economic survey. So economic survey video you must have watched till now, because that of course is of immense importance. Okay, anyways, so now let's start today's class and let's have a good level of discussion in today's class as well, like we had yesterday. Clear, Raji? So my mission or my focus today as well is to make you understand various aspects. So what are we going to do today? Let me firstly brief that as well. So today we are going to be doing various things. For example, we'll talk about GDP, GNP, NDP, NNP, when we talk about the national income. So national income, how do we calculate? What is real GDP and nominal GDP? We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about, what are the factors of production. We'll talk about the ownership, the public sector and the private sector as well. What exactly is the difference? So we are going to be talking about all these things precisely. That is what the focus is going to be. All right. So I'm sure we are going to have a decent discussion today as well. Now, the very first topic today is, based on the ownership, what exactly can we look into? So when you talk about the ownership, based on the ownership, that who is owning that particular enterprise, a particular sector, we have public sector and we have private sector as well. We have got, side by side, try to take the screenshots. That would be really time saving for you guys as well. That will save a lot of time. So you have public sector and private sector. Clear? So when I talk about the public sector, we see that all economic organizations that are controlled and managed by the government, they come under the public sector. For example, ONGC is a company, na? ONGC is there. Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, Coal India Limited, etc., etc. So these are the companies which are owned, the majority share is owned by the government, managed by the government. That is why these are known as public sector undertaking or PSUs. Now, all the government owns production unit comprise the public sector. They are involved in the production, distribution of the goods. And remember this thing, their main objective is what? To ensure a balanced regional and sectoral growth. So their main objectives for the welfare of the people. I am not saying they will not do the profit, but they are focusing too much on the welfare. On the other hand, private sector, like we have Adani, Ambani's, for example, Tata, etc. Infosys, Wipro, they are all private sector. So private sector may all the economic enterprise which are controlled and managed by private enterprise. These are comprising the private sector. So they'll produce and sell the goods and services to the people with the objective of profit making. So their main focus is towards the profit making. That is what we need to understand. They're always focused on the idea of profit making. Clear, Eddie? So I'm hopeful that at least now you are all in a position to understand the nitty-gritties which are involved in this. Everybody is, having a good deal of clarity, and ultimately, this is the kind of the clarity which is required. This is the kind of clarity which you certainly require whenever you are studying this very topic. Now everybody is aware of this fact that what is private sector and what is public sector, so I don't need to tell this thing again and again. I hope that this is very much clear. Perfect. Now comes a very important aspect today, which is relating to the factors of production. So I will be talking more on that. What exactly are the factors of production? So let us now talk about this topic of factors of production. So before I talk about this topic, let me take your doubts and then we'll be starting with the topic of factors of production. That's the main topic for the day. Shall factors of production we are going to be talking about now. Let me open the chat section first of all so that I can take your doubts. Everyone. So you can let me know in the comment section in case you guys have any doubts. Very good. Feel free to ask anything so that I should be in a position to help you all in improving your clarity in this aspect. Very good. Okay, so let me just read your comments now once. So I can see decent number of comments. Okay, last two sectors after territory. After territory, लास्ट टू सेक्टर मैं समझा नहीं कुछ बेटे. दीज आर पब्लिक सेक्टर, दीज आर प्राइवेट सेक्टर्स, दैट्स इट. इसमें तो देयर इज नथिंग. ओके. But a falsive composition we'll be doing in the upcoming classes. We'll do that. A bit too early for us to do that. But a private sector, public sector, very much easy. Sector owned by the government is public sector. Owned by the private people is, private sector. That is easy. Cooperative is different. Hanji, is any organization which is controlled by both private and the government? Yeah, there are, but somebody will be having the majority stake. है ना? Somebody will be having the majority stake. Yeah, public and private can go hand in hand, of course. But a private and public I have already explained. Khushi, don't worry, falsification the composition will do in the upcoming classes. But administrative activities, when the decision making that will come under quinary. No issues. If yesterday class you were absent, you can ask about that from your friends. अभी स्टार्टिंग में मैं वही बता रहा हूँ, स्टार्टिंग में कुछ नहीं पढ़ा है विश्वजीत एज सच. ये फर्स्ट टॉपिक ही है. दिस इज द फर्स्ट टॉपिक ओनली. ठीक है जी. सो यू डोंट हैव टू वरी इन दिस रिगार्ड्स. Now, when I talk about the factors of production today, firstly let's understand what exactly do we mean by the factors of production. Factors of production are basically resources or input which are used in the process of producing goods and services. So remember this thing, that factors of production are economic resources and they are basically used as input when in the process of goods and services production. ये clear हुआ? So if I talk about the factors of production, you should understand that what exactly are the factors of production. That is very much important. Now, having said that, let us understand what all are the factors of production. When I talk about the factors of production, these are the factors of production. One is land, one is labor, one is capital, and one is entrepreneur. These are what? Factors of production. Now, what is land? Basically, it is of course the land where you are opening an office. But all the natural resources provided by the nature will also come over here. You got to understand this thing, that when I say land, so land basically is also relating to the way all natural resources which you are using in your business, that will all come under the land. Farmers' field used to grow wheat, that's a land. Coal mines for the energy production, rivers, forest used for the temple, that is all land. So all the natural resources used in the production basically are the land. So it basically means not just the land, but everything which comes out from the land and the nature, it will come under the land. So remember this thing. So when I say land, you have to be very clear that what exactly is land. So it can be agricultural land, commercial land. So ultimately, it is not just land, but anything that comes from the land is going to be here. Oil, copper, natural gas, coal, forest, water, everything. So that is what the land is. Is that clear? So when I say factor of production, land is the most important factor of production, no doubt about it. Now, secondly, we talk about the labor. When I say labor, labor basically pertains to all the human efforts which are put in. Human efforts. It can be physical effort by the body, it can be mental effort by the brain also. So ultimately all the effort that has been put into by the people to make production of the goods and services ready, that is known as labor. Clear hua? So you give wages to the labor, they give you the efforts, that is how it works. So like for a software company, the software engineer is a labor for them. Software guy is a labor for that company, you got to understand. So labor is pertaining to the human effort which we need to understand. Clear? Now the third thing when you talk about is capital. Now when I say capital, capital means basically everything which is going into the production. It can be tools, equipments, the facilities at the factories, everything. So you have to understand that when I say capital, we need to understand we have got various tools, we have got various machines, we have got various equipments, we have got a lot of investment. So all these aspects are basically what? All these aspects when we talk about, they are basically capital. So this is a point you got to understand. What is capital? This is precisely capital. Very much important. This is capital. हाँ जी, हाँ जी. Any doubts I'll be taking, don't worry. अभी just put your effort in understanding what I'm trying to tell you. Understanding में अपना ध्यान दोगे तो you will be able to understand. And then we have entrepreneur. Now who is entrepreneur? You watch Shark Tank. Entrepreneur is someone, so that's basically, it's an initiative to organize the other factor production. So somebody who will take risk, somebody who will earn profits or bear the loss, that person is the entrepreneur. So you have to understand this thing, that when I say land, that idea is clear. When I say labor, a teacher teaching in the school is a labor. A factory worker in car factory, it's a labor. Doctor treating patient in a hospital, that's a labor. Software engineer writing code is also a labor. So labor is the active factor. Human involvement is necessary for the production. So labor is basically that active factor. Land is a passive factor. है ना? So you need labor to produce something. So remember this thing. When I talk about this land, natural resources, these are basically what? These are the passive factor. है ना? It is not active in itself. Whereas labor is an active factor. Why? Because of course labor is actively working to get the production done. Interesting? So all the physical and mental effort done by the people involved in the production of the goods and services is labor. When I say capital, so I've told you already. So capital basically increases the efficiency of labor and helps in mass production. Always remember this thing. The capital always increase the efficiency of labor, and that is why mass production is made easy. Like tractor used in the farming is a capital, machinery in the textile mill is a capital, computer in the office is a capital, so buildings where the business is operating, all the equipments, that's a capital. Clear? So when I talk about the entrepreneur, they are trying to innovate, making decision, bear the risk, take the profits, everything. Like Elon Musk is an entrepreneur. A local businessman starting the restaurant is an entrepreneur. Farmer deciding to go for organic farming is an entrepreneur. Any app developer who is putting people into place to develop an app is an entrepreneur. So it's a person who is bringing all the land, labor and capital together to start a business or any production activity for that matter. That person will take the risk of success or failure. That is entrepreneurship. So in nutshell, you can say that if a bakery is making bread, okay, so you got to understand this thing, that how do we see this particular thing, because ultimately that is the idea. So I'll give you an example of the bakery, that how do we understand that particular aspect. Till here idea is clear, right? So just hold on, because it is very much important for you guys to be understanding each and every aspect precisely. So okay, let's try to take an example of bakery. Don't worry, I'll give you time to take the screenshot. So example of bakery, है ना? Let's take it. So in the bakery, what is land? In the bakery, land is basically that plot where we have the bakery, where the bakery stands. And in land also we'll see, water which is used by the bakery, that will also come into this. I told you, all the natural resources which they are using. What is labor? Labor is basically bakers and the staff which works over there, that is the labor. What is capital? Capital is basically oven, various mixing machine, है ना? These are the capital, of course. Delivery van, okay. We will have a delivery के लिए van. That is also a capital. What is entrepreneur? The owner who has invested money, hired the staff, he took the risk. So owner of that particular bakery is the entrepreneur. Is that concept interesting or not? So I'll certainly be opening the comment section now. But I am hopeful that things are now very much clear. 1 minute. So because small these concepts are going to help you. But I am explaining topic so many times. काफी बार मैं explain कर रहा हूँ. And the way I am teaching, you will never find it anywhere else. I can assure you. So I am explaining the topic so many times. Yeah, you can take the screenshot. Just hold on. That's a previous slide, na? Yeah, take the screenshot. Land, labor, and all that. Okay, let me see your doubts. First of all, you can take the screenshot till the time. Please explain a topic twice. We are unable to follow it if you explain on your. Okay. Mary, I'm doing that, bete. Okay, I'll do that again. No issues. But I'm doing that so many times. No issues. Okay, maximum people are clear. First slide is missed. Okay, I'll show you. Laissez-faire was the no government interference was laissez-faire. Yeah, I'll explain this again. Raw material, yeah, raw material also land only. Okay, so now understand this thing. I'll explain this thing once again. What is land? Land is of course the land, the plot in which we have this factory running. And on top of that, all the natural resources which are there, that is also land only. You are using water or raw material, everything is land. So it's a passive factor. Why I say it's a passive factor? Because it is not actively involved, right? Plot is not working for you, labor is working for you. So what is the active factor? Active factor in the factor of production is human effort, that is labor. Any person who is doing mental work or physical work, any person who is involved, that is a labor. It can be software engineer, it can be a doctor, it can be a teacher, anyone who is involved, that is a labor. And when I say capital, capital means various machines, tools, investments. So capital will always increase the efficiency of labor. Like a tractor in the farm, that is increasing the efficiency of the labor. Hai na? Various tools are increasing the efficiency. So this is how we are going to be looking at this. Very important. Moreover, who is an entrepreneur? Anybody who takes the risk, like Elon Musk, that is an entrepreneur. So any person who is taking the risk and building that production house, that is an entrepreneur. You can take the screenshot first of all. Everyone can take a screenshot. Very good. So, if you will put your 100% in understanding these facts, trust me, you're not going to find even a single doubt. So, just try to stay very much focused, and I'm giving proper time to each and everything to explain you guys only. That is what my intention is, to make sure that you all are understanding things precisely. Shabash. Okay. So, and then I gave you the example of this bakery. A bakery in which we have a plot and water, which is a part of land. Bakers and staff is a part of labor. Oven, machine, delivery van is a part of capital. Entrepreneur is the owner of the bakery. That was the example which I took. So now you know what exactly is factor of production now. Everybody is aware of this fact. So when I say factor of production, you have to simply understand that what are the factor of production, key resources that is used in the production of goods and services. Land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship are the key resources. And with example, if you understand, that always is very much fruitful. है ना? So this is how we are able to understand that. Like when I talk about the land or natural resources, so in the energy field, oil fields in the Middle East, they are the example of land only. Tea plantation of Assam is the example of land. Gold mines of South Africa are example of land. Windy areas of Gujarat are example of land for renewable energy. And when I talk about the labor, so any carpenter making furniture is example of labor. Teacher teaching in any school is example of labor. Delivery boy of Zomato is example of labor. Civil engineer is example of labor. Call center employee is example of labor. So any service sector guy, manufacturing guy, farmer, everybody, they are in a way, putting their effort. Of course, that's important. है कि नहीं? And when I talk about the capital, so it means, tractors, robots, laptops, anything, even aircraft in the airline industry, that is also example. I hope it's clear. So, and entrepreneurship, then we have various examples, right? So, all in all, you have to understand one thing, that whenever we are understanding these aspects, we always have to look into one thing, and that is, just hold on. Now have a look at this very carefully. Already we have done the factors of the production, and we have talked about the land, we have talked about the labor. One more aspect I would like to show you here, that it's an economic term. Factor production, we know that. It is describing what? It is describing the inputs used in the, so I'll just highlight for you, inputs used in the production of goods and services in order to make an economic profit. That is what the factor production are. What are these? Land, labor, capital and entrepreneurship. We have talked about that. Land is including not only land, but anything that comes from the land. I've told you already. So some common land resources like, water, even oil, copper, natural gas, coal, forest, these are all the example of land only. So it can be commercial land, it can be agricultural land, whatsoever. We have talked about that already. I'm just repeating it for you. For those who were saying, sir, repeat 2 times, I'm repeating 3 times over here. So, bete, when I talk about this thing, you got to understand that land is including not only land, but anything which comes from the land. When I say labor, labor is what? Labor is effort that the people made in the production of goods and services. And income earned by the labor is known as their wages, like salaries. Remember. So, usually wage is the largest source of income for many people, For software company, the labor refer to the work done by developer, software engineer in the building of the final product. As simple as that. So, I have already discussed these things. This thing is just for the more clarity of, your mind. That's why I'm telling you these things. So, make sure you make a note of it. इसके notes बना लो सारे. Shabash. So you can take a screenshot. Done. Now we'll talk about the capital, then we'll talk about the entrepreneurship. Very good. Now, I'm going to be talking about the capital. Now, what is capital? I told you, tools, machinery, building, anything that helps in the production of the goods and services, that is capital. So, you got to understand this thing. So, capital is different from, for different workers basically. For example, teachers, for teachers, books, whiteboard, marker, pen, they are the capitals, right? For any teacher, these are the things. For me, for example, I am a teacher. For me, books are capital, whiteboard is a capital, marker is a capital, pens are capital. No doubt about that. For a worker, tools will be the capital. An entrepreneur is a person who combines all these factors, land, labor and capital, and then he is trying to aim for the profits. That is how we look at it. So remember this thing, that when we talk about the factor income, it means the income received from the factor of production. For example, factor income on the use of the land is rent. Income generated from the labor is wages, like that. So anyways, we don't need to go in too much depth, but we have to understand that if you are generating any income on the use of land, that is rent, income generated on the labor is wage, and income generated from the capital is the interest. Interest, byaj. So on the capital you get the interest, as simple as that. So if you are a successful entrepreneur, you will be taking the advantage and you will be taking the profit home, as simple as that. And I am hopeful that you are able to understand this aspect precisely. All of you. Clear? Now all the factor production, I think they are 100% clear to you guys. I've made you understand so many times now. I'll take your doubts now. Then we'll move to the national income topic. Take the screenshot for those of you who want land, labor. Perfect. But a land labor doesn't come under the capital. Land is different, labor is different, capital is different. Capital is the tools and the equipment which are making the process easier. Yeah, capital also will include the money. Money will also be there, of course. Capital will also include that thing, money, because money will make things easy, right? So money is important, no doubt. So let me read your comments now. Good job. Raw material is not land. No. So of course here in the factor of production, of course will include the raw material into the land itself, because usually the raw material comes from the land only. Yeah, you can definitely get the screenshot. I'll just step aside. Let me read the comments. Public sector mein, haan, theek hai. So who keeps all the profit? Government. Yeah. Does the land labor come into the capital? I've told you already. Okay. So capital is different. Land includes all the raw material basically. Labor is staff and the capital is different. Quaternary sector is a sector in which high skilled people are there, like IT engineers, doctors, CA, they are the part. Sir, capital is also money. Yes, it is. You will get the attendance sheet, don't worry. Current affairs I'll cover, don't worry. Okay, so capital includes money as well. I'll show you all the slides, don't worry. I will be showing you all the slides today. Just hold on. Till here, we have just done these 4-5 slides. You can take a screenshot if you want. I won't be giving you a chance again. Please try to understand here. It disturbs the rhythm of my class. Yellow shabash. This slide number 1 hai. 1 number slide this is. Okay, this was just to tell you that what we covered yesterday, what do we cover today. Then we did this slide. That what is public sector, what is private sector. Everybody can tell this now. This is very easy. Then we did talk about factor of production. What are the factor of production? We have got economic resources used as input in the process of goods and service production. These are the four, land, labor, capital and entrepreneur. We have talked about that very much extensively. And then in the next slide, I also gave you the example. Which example did we take? We took example of bakery. It's a bakery in a city or a village. So we use the land, that is plot, and the water used. Labor is the baker and the staff. Capital is the oven, machine and delivery van. Entrepreneur is the owner of the bakery. Take the screenshot. And then we did talk about these things only, it has been written over here precisely. That's it. Now, we come to the next topic, a very important one, that is national income. We're going to be talking about the national income. You must have come across the terms like GDP, GNP, NDP, NNP, all these terms. You must have come across these terms, right? Very important terms these are. So, when we talk about the national income, we have to understand that what national income is. Not only do we understand, but we also will understand that how in the first place are we going to calculate it. So that is certainly something which will make it so much important for you guys, and I'll be differentiating between all these terms, what is the difference, and all these things we'll be talking about. So it's going to be super easy for you. So that's why, just if you have any doubts, I'll be clearing it all, but just stay very much focused. So when I talk about the national income, first of all, you got to understand that what is national income in the first place. Like total net earning from the production of goods and services in a particular country over a period of time is what is the national income. So yeah, this is one aspect we have to be understanding, that it is basically the net earning from the production of goods and services. I'll clarify it more, don't worry. So we have got National Statistical Office under the Ministry of Stats and Program Implementation, which is going to be making the calculations. Now, just to set things into context, we got to be understanding that what all are the methods which we are deploying in order to calculate this. Of course, you need to have some methods, and they are certainly very much important, and that is why we have to have a clear-cut idea. So now this is a very crude idea, and we have to have a proper clarity that how in the first place are we going to be calculating it. So we've got basically three main methods which we deploy. They've got three main methods of calculation of national income. These are these methods. I'll just increase the font. This should be visible now, I hope. Yeah, better. So we've got three methods of estimating the national income. One is production method or value addition method. Second one is income method. And the third one is expenditure method. Expenditure method. That's the one thing you got to understand. So what are these will of course be talking about, don't worry. So whenever we have to do the measurement of national income, we follow income method, value added method or expenditure method. Now, having said that, we got to understand that how in the first place are we going to use these methods? Of course, that's important. So let me give you a basic idea. Okay. So whenever we have to focus on the measurement of national income, what in the first place do we do? Let us firstly talk about it. Now that's quite important. So we have got the three angles to look at the national income. One is, of course, value added method. Second is income method, and then we have expenditure method, as we already talked about. Now, having said that, firstly, let us talk about what is value added method. This one. So, you know, production units like the companies, or we have got small entities, firms. So, production units in any particular economy, they are classified into primary, secondary and tertiary. You all know that. Three sectors we have talked about. Quaternary, quinary are part of the tertiary only. So, on the basis of this classification, value added method is used to measure the national income. I'll talk about that in detail. Don't worry, but I'm just giving you a crude idea. Got it? So, when I talk about the value added method, simply, it is also known as the output method. And in this method, national income is computed by adding the value of output produced or the services produced by different sectors. Primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector. So this is a very interesting one. So you got to understand this thing, that sector wise we are estimating all the income in an economy. That is what value added method is. Then we have what? The income method. Now, what makes this income method so much special? Let's firstly talk about this as well. Under the national income method, you know, national income is obtained by summing up the incomes of all individuals in a particular economy. So, individual earn income, big corporates earn income, some people earn rental income, some people earn interest from their investments. So, all the employee salary, all the company's profits, everything, you know, everybody's income is put together and we use this. So, basically, what are we doing is, in the income method, income is used as the combination of individual household, different kind of corporates income. Every income is put together and we have a national income figure. Talking of the expenditure method, it's a bit different. So when you talk about the expenditure method, it assumes that income earned by individual is either spent on consumer goods like fridge, TV, or services, or is saved. So national income is what? Our expenditure, our investments like FD or savings, plus government's expenditure and, you know, all these things. So basically here too much focus is on how much people are spending, because when they'll earn then they'll spend, and all these things they are focusing upon. So basically economy is used as collection of per unit consumption, saving and investment. I'll explain that. So this is how it is. So basically, I know many of you may not have understood each and everything precisely, but you may have got a decent idea till now that what exactly are we going to be talking about. So the idea is very clear that whenever we are talking of any particular method, we have to know the nitty-gritties which are basically involved. So of course, I'll be starting with the value added method, and ultimately it is very much important method because it is also the output method. So that's why we have to be understanding that method very, very precisely. So because, you know, in GDP calculation, these methods are of immense importance. Hanji. Clear hua bete? I hope everybody is absolutely clear with this. Chale. So now, the very first on the list is value added method. Now, you know, having said that, firstly, we have to have a decent understanding on what exactly is this method all about. Value added method, or output method also we call it. product method or value added method. It calculates the national income by summing the value added at each stage of the production. And the best part is that whenever we are talking about this very method, we got to be very much clear about one thing at least, that here NI, that is national income, is computed by adding the value of output of production or the services produced by different sectors of economy during a particular year. Now, which sectors are we talking about? Primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector. So you can say that the value added by primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector is added to get the GDP of an economy. That's very much important. So this is what the idea is when we talk about this value added methods in the calculation of national income. National income calculation mein, this is certainly a very important one. So you got to understand that whenever we're using this method, so you have to understand that output figures only the value added by each company or each firm in the production is taken into account, and it used the concept of value added basically by each sector, by the different sectors, and that is why it is known as the value added method. You don't need to go in too much depth of it, you just need to have a basic idea about this thing. Clear is the value added method, everyone? Then the next one which we have on the list is income method. So when I talk about the income method, let me tell you that what precisely is the income method we have to basically understand first of all. Income method. Have a look. So when we use this method, that is income method, here national income will be obtained by summing up incomes of all individuals in the economy. Now, who all are the individuals in the economy? We have employees who get a composition of the salary. We have corporates who get a profit. We have proprietors income, any firm's owner income basically. Rental income some people get. Net interest some people get from the banks. So all these are added to get the national income. So basically you got to understand this thing, that every entity is earning something in the economy and their salary or their income is also country's income. So that is how we are getting the national income. So under the income method, the national income is calculated in this manner. Got it? So I am hopeful that you are understanding the differences, that this value added was totally different. Different sectors, we were adding that what was the value added. Income method is different because here we are adding the income of different entities, different peoples, different factories, different companies, different, all the entities we are putting together to get the national income. And that is what is making this so much important. And lastly, we have the method which goes by the name of expenditure method. Now, when I say expenditure method, we got to understand that under this method, it assumes that the income earned by individual is either spent on the consumer goods or services, or it is saved and invested. For example, you are earning 100 rupees. Either you spend 100 rupees on the consumer goods, or you save it, or you invest it. That's what you will do. So you got to understand, when you talk about the national income using the method of expenditure method, so national income is what? Personal consumption expenditure, what you spend when you go to the market, plus investments like you put in the FD, plus government's expenditure, plus exports minus imports, net exports basically. So that is how the national income is calculated under the expenditure method. So this is basically a formula, but you have to make a proper understanding. So all in all, what I can say is that, the income and expenditure method are both different. We don't have to get confused. First of all, you have to have that clarity. So value added method, to chalo, you have understood, but you got to understand this thing, that whenever we are talking of income method and expenditure method, they are both different, because as you can see, income method mein we are focusing on the income of the laborers, wages, salaries, profits of private sector, rental income, and etc. etc. That is what the income method was. Expenditure method may be focusing on the consumption expenditure, investment done, government expenditure, net exports. That is what you are focusing on, the expenditure method for the calculation of national income. I'll be talking about the GDP, don't worry, but firstly you need to understand these things. First of all, you need to be understanding these things. Clear hai? Everyone, I hope now you're getting the proper idea on these words. Yeah. Because these are the kind of the ideas which have to be very much clear in your mind, and only then you will get a proper clear idea. Yeah. Very good. No, don't worry, I'll be opening the comment section. Okay? I know you may be having some doubts, so I'll be opening it. Yeah, it's going to be open. You can ask your doubts about these three methods. ठीक है. Explain income method again. Okay, I'll do that. Corporate means big companies like Tata's, Adani's, Ambani's. These are the big companies. Now these are corporates. Okay. Tax revenue also affects the production of commodity. No. Tax are not under the factor production. They are different. Okay. And moreover, they don't impact it. Whatever will happen, it will add to the cost, right? Government expenditure means whatever the government is spending in the economy. Government also spends a lot of money. Yeah. No, entrepreneur is entrepreneur only. Ash. I'll explain once more. Okay. Expenditure method. Okay, expenditure method नहीं समझ आया. I'll explain that. Income and expenditure method, I'll do that. So सबने कोई ना कोई डाउट लिखा है तो सारे फिर दोबारा करवाऊँ क्या? So do I need to explain each and everything once again? I'll just give you a glimpse once again. Just hold on. You can take the screenshot as well. So doing the measurement of the national income, we have three methods basically. We are having the three methods which are there in front of you guys. You can have a look. Can you see that? Three methods are there. Take a screenshot if you want. Everyone, you guys can take the screenshots if you guys are wanting. फिर मत बोलना टाइम नहीं मिला, ले लो. Now, having said that, here we are looking at the measurement of the national income. These three methods. So, the first one was value-added method. Value-added method में national income is calculated by adding the values of output produced या फिर services given by three sectors. Now, what are the three sectors? Primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector. Three sectors we have. So, all in all, what is the contribution by these three sectors? That is what is focused upon. That is what is focused upon over here, and this is what is visible to you. As simple as that. So, whenever I am talking about the value added method, we are seeing that what is the value added by the primary, secondary, and tertiary sector of the economy. Primary is agriculture and allied activities, secondary is manufacturing, tertiary is service sector, simple. When I talk about income method, bete, what is income method? Income method mein, we are seeing the entire incomes of economy. What does that mean? This means income of employees. Like I am an employee of a company, I get some income. And then company's profits, what is company earning? And then proprietor's income, basically you are having a small shop or you're having a small company, you also make some profit. Then rental income, you have a home, you gave on rent, you get rent. Net interest, you have a FD, you earn interest on the FD. So all these incomes are put together to get the national income. It is known as the income method. So this precisely is known as the income method. Clear hai? This is how we look at the income method. So we have to be very clear in this regards. Then we have expenditure method. So we also call it total outlay method. So it's simple. It is making an assumption that the income which anybody is earning, if you are earning something, what will you do? Either you will spend or you will save. है ना? दो ही चीजें होती हैं, या तो खर्चोगे या बचाओगे. So either you spend or you save. So under the expenditure method, we see that the national income is your consumption expenditure, that whatever you spend in the market, plus investments, whatever you put in the bank, plus government is spending something, plus exports minus imports. So that is how we look at the expenditure method. So it is just a way of understanding things, nothing else. So these are the three methods which we have looked into. But anyways, since we are talking of the national income, we need to understand the concepts like GDP, very important concept that is. So let us talk about GDP, that what exactly is GDP all about? What exactly is GDP all about? It's a very interesting thing. I hope this idea is clear. You have taken the screenshots also. Now let us move ahead of this thing. Shabash. So talking of gross domestic product or GDP, which indeed I would say is no doubt a very important concept which you have to be covering. So when you talk about the GDP, you got to understand that what precisely is GDP all about. GDP आखिरकार है क्या? We have to be looking into that particular point very, very precisely. That what constitutes GDP, or what exactly is GDP all about. So we got to understand that whenever we are talking of the GDP, we have to understand a very simple thing. Within a particular year, in a particular country, what is the value of the goods and services produced? Again, I am repeating that what is the total monetary value or the market value of goods and services produced in a country within a specific period. So remember this thing very carefully, that total monetary value or market value of finished goods and services produced within a boundary of a country in a specific period of time, that certain thing is known as the GDP of that particular country. वो उस country की क्या होगी? वो उस country की GDP होगी, and this is something which we have to be understanding precisely. Very important this is. So I'll give you an example. This is a country. This is a country X. So in 1 year, this country produced a car. This country produced a car. And what is the market value of the car? The car market value is 10,000. This country also produced a gun. The market value of the gun is 20,000. I'm giving you just an example, okay? So, and here, if just imagine in 1 year they are producing just these things, what will be the GDP? The GDP will be 30,000 rupees. 30,000 will be the GDP. Why? Because in 1 year, in the boundary of this country, we are seeing that they are producing a car and they are producing a gun. Hai? So that is why their GDP is 30,000. Just to give you an example, this is. So my idea is that you have to be understanding this point very, very clearly, and trust me, if you have this idea, you are absolutely good to go. You are absolutely good to go. So you have to have a clear-cut understanding of these points very, very precisely. Yep. Very clearly you have to understand. ठीक है जी. So whenever we talk about any country for that matter, we will always have to see what is the monetary value or the market value of the finished goods and services produced within a specific period of time. So GDP is what? GDP is basically quantity of goods and services into market price of the goods and services, basically monetary value, that will give you the total GDP. Now that's a very easy thing. So we have to have this idea in our mind always that, you know, what precisely is GDP all about. We have to first of all understand ourselves, only then we can have a clear cut understanding. तभी तो understanding होगी ना, when we ourselves understand that. Yeah. Clear? So what is GDP? I hope you guys have understood. What in the first place is GDP? I hope you guys have understood by now. And trust me, these are the things which are super important. From the examination point of view also, these are the aspects which we have to study at any cost. You know, you can't really afford to miss out on these things, I would say. Because, you know, these are the kind of the topics which you have to do, whether you like them or not. And trust me, they are quite interesting also. Like if you ask me, they are, you know, quite interesting topics, and we just have to make sure that we are having a decent understanding on these topics. Anyways, now having said that, I'll just be telling you one more thing related to this, just to give you some more clarity. Now, be very focused on the screen. This is a country X, whatever this country is. This country can produce one pen. This is a pen, okay? One pen it produces, and it is worth 10 rupees in 1 year. So just imagine in the year 2021, this country is producing just one pen in the entire year. So what will be the GDP? The GDP will be rupees 10. You agree with me? The GDP will be rupees 10 only. No doubt in that. However, this very country next year does what? In this very country we observe bete, next year in the year 2022, this country produces 2 pen. But now the price of the pen is 20 rupees. This is 20 rupees pen. This is 20 rupees pen. So now the GDP is what? The total monetary value is how much? 20 plus 20, 40. 40 rupees is the one. So if you see, the GDP increase is lagbhag 4x. Do you agree? We are seeing the increase in the GDP is around 4 times, and that is massive. So 4x is the increase in the GDP, as you can see on your screens, all the people out there. I hope you can see that. But this is not real. Why? Because the price of the pen is increasing because of inflation. Of course, inflation I'll explain in detail later. But what is inflation? Mehengai, mudrasfiti, rise in the prices. So this one pen was of 10 rupees, now it became 20 rupees. In reality, what is reality? If you see reality, reality is that in 2021 they were producing one pen. In 2022 they are producing 2 pens, not 4 pens, right? So if they are producing 2 pens, their GDP should be double. So if I keep these prices the constant, what we can see is that their GDP is 2 times the GDP it was there. But in present prices terms, in the present prices terms or current prices term or nominal terms, that nominal GDP is no doubt 4 times their previous year GDP. but real GDP is 2 times their previous year's GDP. That is where inflation comes into action. That is where the inflation is coming under the action. I hope it's clear. So we got to be, keeping these very things in our mind, because these are genuinely very, very important aspects. Let me tell you, you can't afford to ignore on these. I hope you have understood the example which I've given you, because these are the kind of the examples which you have to understand, and these are the kind of examples which we have to keep in our minds. Very important these are. And trust me, once you start studying from these examples, then things will automatically become very much easy for you guys. Things are, automatically going to become very much easy for you guys. So it's just the beginning which is tough, and later things will be very much easy. So let me see, in case you guys have any doubts, just hold on. What is GDP? I hope things are clear. Now I'm opening the comment section. Please tell me if you have any doubts. Yeah, ask in the comment section, it's open. These are very basic concepts you must have studied in the school also. Inflation means mehengai. The price going up is inflation. Yeah, see, pen was 10 rupees pen, now it's 20 rupees pen, that is inflation, no? Yeah. So I'll tell you the difference between nominal and real GDP basically. Sure, see, GDP is a taxes, bete. Yeah, okay, just hold on. Let me read your comments first. Let me read your comments. Very good. So a lot of doubts I can see. Okay, most of people are saying clear. Inflation is a price going up. Price of a commodity going up is inflation. So what is real GDP, nominal GDP? Now real GDP is real increase in the goods, like 1 pen to 2 pen. That is in real terms it is happening. Nominal is because of inflation. Like the GDP was 10 rupees. Now it is becoming 40 rupees. Why? Because 1 pen is of 20. So 20 plus 20 is 40. But in reality, the real GDP is how much? It is 2 times the previous GDP, right? So technically it should be 20. The total GDP should be 20. But because the increase in the prices, it is showing 40. So that is nominal GDP. So nominal GDP is always higher than real GDP. Okay. No, GST is different. GDP is different. I'll show you the previous slide, don't worry. GDP, you understood? Inflation is mehengai, bete. The price of the commodity going up is mehengai. So GDP is the monetary value of the goods and services produced within a year in a country, that is GDP. Period, that is 1 year, Fatima, 1 year period. Super clear. So nominal GDP and real GDP difference is clear. So yeah, because the prices are different, so that's why inflation is different from country to country and state to state. Commodity means good, like this pen is a commodity. Mini Ratna is not a topic for today. Here monetary doesn't mean quantity, bete. Monetary value means the value in the real money terms. I'll tell you about that, Charutha. We'll talk about GNP concept, don't worry. So when I talk about the concept of the GNP, then I'll answer the question which you are asking, that if somebody is working abroad, then what about him? So that is the GNP thing, but we will be talking about that. Don't worry, have some patience. And first of all, try to understand these aspects, which we have just talked about. These are super important aspects and we have to be understanding them precisely. Yeah. Clear? So I just simply want one thing only, that whatever I'm teaching you, you just revise that properly and you have that patience. You try to learn that, and trust me, that will always be beneficial for you guys. because if you just don't put that much effort, then it will be very difficult for you to understand, because what I'm doing is I'm making things very much easy for you. If you see that carefully, I'm making things super easy for you guys. Now you just have to put some effort at least, so that things are going to be very much transparently clear for you. So thoda effort to aapko dalna hi padega. That is what you want to do. I'm teaching you like I'm teaching a 6th standard student, very easy things. Okay. So you can take the screenshot. Till here we have done. You can take the screenshot here. I've given you sufficient time वैसे तो. Take the screenshot फटाफट. Be very quick बेटे. Everyone take the screenshot. Good job. Perfect. So this was just an example. So, okay. I'll give you this example all over again. Okay? Now listen to this very carefully, please. Okay, let's talk about a country. Let's talk about Bhutan. Bhutan is a country like this. Bhutan. In the year 2021, now listen to this very carefully, please. सबको समझ आना चाहिए. In the year 2021, Bhutan produces pens. Okay, Bhutan is producing 2 pen. What is the cost of one pen? 10 rupees. What is the cost of another pen? 10 rupees. 10 plus 10, how much it is? Rupees 20 total. So this is the 2021 में GDP of Bhutan, that they are producing only 2 pens in entire years. Fast forward we come to 2022 year 2022. Then again we are talking of Bhutan. In this year, Bhutan increases the production, and now Bhutan produces 4 pens. 4 pens. And now 1 pen is equal to 20 rupees, not 10 rupees. पहले तो 10 rupees का था. And what is GDP now? GDP is now is 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20, that is 80 rupees. Now, if you see that this GDP basically is called the nominal GDP, or you can say it is known as GDP at current prices. GDP at current prices. Why? Because here the prices of the pens are having inflation. What is inflation? That previous year they were 10 rupees pen, now they're 20 rupees pen. So can't you see inflation is there in the price? Inflation means महंगाई. So that is why this very GDP is nominal GDP. Because we also calculate real GDP. Real GDP, or we call it GDP at constant price. How much would that be? For that we are not going to take the price at 20 rupees. For that we will take the price at previous year price 10 rupees. So it will be 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10, that is 40 rupees. So 40 rupees will be the real GDP. And 80 rupees will be the nominal GDP. Now is it clear, bete? So the GDP in 2021 was 20 rupees. Now the nominal GDP has become how much? 80 rupees. But the real GDP is how much? 40 rupees. Why? Because here one pen price we are not taking 20, we are taking 10 rupees. Because this is how the real price have to work without inflation. So remember this thing, whenever I am calculating the GDP, the real GDP excludes the impact of inflation, and nominal GDP includes the impact of inflation. Now you know what is inflation? महंगाई. The increase of the price of the pen is basically inflation. I hope now it's absolutely clear. Everyone. Idea समझ आया? So everyone has, I hope, understood this idea very, very precisely. And that is how you're supposed to understand things. That is how you're supposed to have a good level of clarity basically. And trust me, once you have the clarity, then you're absolutely good to go. Sky is the limit for you. तो दिक्कत ही नहीं कोई. Yeah. Clear है? ठीक है. So now I'll open the comments and ask if you have any doubts. Just hold on. Perfect. Now the comments are going to be open. They are open. Now you tell me, clear hai? So, write in the comment section, clear, 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 clear. Nominal means nothing here. Nominal GDP, it's a term. Nominal means that it is at the current price. You will get the attendance link soon. Chalo, I'm glad now. It's clear. So we are not doing a formality here. We are deliberately, taking these classes to make you understand. यहाँ पे कोई ऐसा नहीं कि भाई मैं आया पढ़ाया ऐसे अंगड़ाई लेके उबासी मार के चला गया. Nothing like that. If I'm here, I mean business. If I'm here, I mean to teach you. I mean to explain you things so that you remember कि किसी ने पढ़ाया था. You should remember me that somebody taught economy. So that is important. So I'm glad that it's clear now. We'll talk with the foreigners, Jyoti. Don't worry. We'll talk with the GNP. Thank you so much now. See that this is what I wanted. That it is clear now. You will get the attendance. Don't worry. Shabash, shabash, shabash. बहुत बढ़िया. चलो. Now I am happy and satisfied. Now moving ahead. See, it doesn't matter if we take more classes to make your things understand. Priority is your understanding. Okay. So you just have to understand this thing. That when I talk about the GDP per day, we got to have one clarity in our minds. And that is understand. Now we have already understood. It will be very easy for you to remember by summing up the value of all the goods and services produced in a financial year within the boundary of India or any country, irrespective of the ownership. Doesn't matter that was an American company, French company. If it is done in India, we will include in the GDP. It gives out the gross domestic product or GDP of a country. Clear? So if you consider the total value of all the goods and services produced by both residents or the foreign nationals who are residing in the India, that is a part of the GDP. So you have to see no matter who makes it. So if a foreign company also produces in India, so what matters is the boundary. So here boundary of India is the key word. Remember this thing. I'll also give you an illustration. It's beautiful illustration. If you see, you will enjoy that. So we have got a beautiful illustration for you guys. So I'm sure you're going to be enjoying that as well. Just hold on. So when I talk about this aspect, remember that this illustration is going to give you so much clarity you can't even imagine. ठीक है? GDP is very much clear. कभी नहीं भूलोगे. Have a look at this. This is our beautiful India. Let me just make the boundary properly. Okay. Okay. So this is our India. Got it? Now we all know this is Mukesh Ambani, Indian company, Reliance he has. This is an American company. This is a American company working in India. Got it? Now remember, and this is an Indian boy who is having a company in Kazakhstan. You know Kazakhstan? He's working in Kazakhstan. Now remember, Reliance, now we are taking example of a particular year. Reliance is producing goods and services worth 100 rupees. I'm just keeping things very much simple. Reliance produces goods and services worth 100 rupees. This American company produces goods and services worth rupees 40 in that year. And this boy in Kazakhstan is producing goods and services worth rupees 70 in a particular year in Kazakhstan. So when I calculate GDP, when I calculate the GDP, what will I add? In the calculation GDP, boundary of India matters. Goods and services produced within the boundary of India matters. So I will add, so let me name these entities. This is going to be easy. So this is A1, this is A2, and this is A3. Okay, I'm just giving you numbers randomly. So for GDP, what will we add? A1 plus A2. So A1 plus A2 we will be adding, that is 100 plus 40 will be adding. So India's GDP will be rupees 140 rupees. Do you agree? 140 rupees is going to be the GDP of India. Very interesting. However, if I have to calculate, now this is the GDP, gross domestic product. But if I have to calculate something called gross national product, ध्यान से सुनो ज्योति, gross national product or GNP, then I don't take A2 because he is not Indian, then Indian matters. So what will be the GNP? Of course, this is an Indian company in India, so we'll definitely take that. So we'll take A1 plus A3, we'll leave A2. So A1 is 100, A3 is 70. So what is the GNP? GNP is 170 rupees. 170 is going to be the GNP. I'll define GNP, don't worry. There's a term known as net factor income from abroad, NFIA. So net factor income from abroad is calculated by subtracting this A3 and A2. What is that? A3 is 70, A2 is 40, it is 30. So you can also do like this, that this is net factor income from abroad. We are deducting this income and this income, basically we are calculating the difference. So net factor income from abroad is how much? 30. So you simply add 30 to 140, then also you get 170. Both ways you can do this. So can I say, you tell me, can I say this thing that GNP is equal to GDP plus net factor income from abroad? Can I say that? GNP is, so this is a formula, remember now, that GNP, gross national product, is equal to GDP plus net factor income from abroad. It can be positive for India, it can be negative for some country. So how much was the GDP? 140. How much is net factor income from abroad? 30. So then also we get this figure of 170. I hope you have understood the illustration, everyone. Now I'll open the comment section and then I'll ask you. Shabash. But before I open the comment section here, let me firstly define this GNP thing so that it will be easy for you guys to understand. Okay, so I'll first of all define the GNP. So basically, total value of finished goods and services produced by country's citizen in a given financial year, irrespective of where they are based, irrespective of their location. That is what the GNP is. So remember, when I say GNP, we got to be very much clear about this particular aspect, that your nationality is going to matter, but it is not going to matter that where you are based. You may be based inside the country, you may be based outside the country, that is absolutely fine. So that is how we look at this. Just hold on. Clear? So when I talk about the GNP, gross national product, so what certainly needs to be understood is that gross national product is the total value of finished product and the services produced by citizens in a given financial year irrespective of their location. So this is what what is NFI? Is net factor income from abroad? We have already shown you. So you add GDP plus NFIA, you get the GNP. This is the basic formula you need to understand. So what is the NFIA? The difference between the factor income earned by our resident from rest of the world and factor income earned by the non-resident in our domestic territory, that is India, that will be called the NFIA. So I have already shown you over here. So 40 deducted from the 70, we got how much? 30, and that is why we added this 30 to 140 and we are getting the 170 number. You know, so that is how we are getting that. So 170 is what the GNP, as I have shown you the example. So I am hopeful now that you will be able to understand this point. ठीक है जी? So in calculation of GNP, ownership will matter and not the boundary of the country. This is the most important thing of all. So GNP will include the value of goods and services produced financial year by the factor of production owned by the citizen of a country, regardless of where the output is being produced. That is most important. Shabash. Now I'll open the comment section. Good job. You will be getting the attendance link soon, don't worry. मिल जाएगा. Okay. You've got the attendance link as well. But anyways, now let me take up the doubts. GNP हो गया clear, GDP तो हो गया था clear. Now GNP is very much clear, bete. This is what GNP is. I have shown you the illustration also. I have shown you in the illustration also. Yeah. It will be open soon, don't worry. Meanwhile, let's reiterate the fact which we have just studied. I'll give you time for the screenshot, don't worry. So GNP is basically, for the calculated GNP, ownership matters and not the boundary of the country. In the GDP, boundary matters. In GNP, ownership matters. I've told you. So GNP is the total value of the final goods and services produced by Indians in India as well as abroad during a financial year. Hence, GNP includes the value of the goods and services produced in a financial year by the factor of production owned by a citizen of the country, regardless of where the output is being produced. That is very much important. Regardless of the location. Location is not mattering in the GNP. So now GDP and GNP is 100% clear, I assume. GDP and GNP is 100% clear. I hope that. Clear hai ji? Okay, now the comment section is open. You are free to ask any doubts. I have reiterated so many times. Clear, clear, clear. चलो, अब तो कभी भूलोगे ही नहीं. You will not be able to forget that. Very good. Shabash. Amazing classes. Thank you so much. GNP slide. हाँ, slide I'll show you. Slide की चिंता ना करो. Slide I'll show you. Just tell me the concept is clear. Okay, Vishwajit. Thank you so much, bete. More examples. से example तो यही है. This is what the example. This map वाला example is the example. A land can become a value for adding GFO. See, land's value is basically a different aspect, because here we are talking just about the goods and the services value being produced. So land is not going to be there. Okay, Adit? Modern history, हाँ जी Haritik Kanaujiya हो गई है. On YouTube I did the Viceroy topic also. You can watch that from there. Also provide PYQs. हाँ, PYQs will do in the future classes. GNP slide, please. Okay. Yeah, GNP slide I'll show you. Just hold on. See, GNP is equal to GDP plus net factor income from abroad. So in India case, net factor income from abroad is positive. Somewhere it can be negative. So it basically depends. If net factor income from abroad is positive, then GNP is greater than GDP. if net factor income from abroad is negative, then GNP is certainly, the opposite is going to be the case. है ना? Then GNP will be smaller than the GDP. So now you have understood that, I'm glad. Okay, now moving ahead of this aspect of GNP, which you have understood well. Now let's talk about two more terms. Okay, and these are NDP and NNP. So for these terms, you have to understand the concept of this thing, depreciation, but that's a different thing. Firstly, let me tell you one very interesting concept, that is GDP deflator. Now remember, we just talked about nominal GDP, real GDP. Nominal GDP is usually more because of inflation, real GDP is less because it is, we are not taking inflation into account. I have given you so many examples for that. So when you divide nominal GDP to the real GDP, you get the GDP deflator. Remember, nominal GDP is the current monetary value. Real GDP is taking into effect the effects of inflation, and that's why it is less and nominal is more. We have talked about that. So what is GDP deflator? Just remember this thing. So GDP deflator is basically calculated by dividing nominal GDP to the real GDP. So you have to understand this thing, that GDP deflator is basically telling you about inflation. So you can say it is a measure of inflation. Can we say that? Why is it a measure of inflation? Because more the nominal GDP, more is the inflation in the economy. Don't you think so? Jitni zyada nominal GDP, utni zyada inflation. Am I right or no? More the nominal GDP, more will be the inflation. We know that. So remember, bete, that GDP deflator, this was an article in The Hindu. I was reading, that's why I included in the class. So GDP deflator is a comprehensive measure of inflation. GDP deflator is also known as implicit price deflator and is a measurement of inflation. So you just have to understand this thing, that whenever we are talking of the GDP deflator, we are doing what? We are simply dividing the nominal GDP by the real GDP. But understand this thing. So if it can be a question in the prelims that about the GDP deflator, so you should be in a position to understand this aspect very, very clearly. Very important this is. Whenever there is a question on GDP deflator, you should be able to understand that how do we answer that. So because it simply will tell you about the inflation. Now if I go to that example, if you remember Bhutan wala example, our beautiful example, let's come over here. Okay, let's calculate GDP deflator. So here, what is the real GDP? It is 40 rupees. What is the nominal GDP? It is 80 rupees. So what are we doing? So if you have to calculate GDP deflator, so we are basically doing 80 divided by 40. So basically this number is coming. So it tells you about the presence of inflation. And it tells you that this GDP, nominal GDP is roughly double the real GDP. It also tells you that the price have literally doubled in the economy. We have talked about this. So this is a very base minimum thing which you have to understand, that nominal GDP, real GDP, you divide and you get the GDP deflator, as simple as that. So it's a measure of inflation. Just understand this thing because it tells you about the inflation which is there. Now remember one thing, there is a concept of depreciation. Now listen to this concept very carefully and I'm sure you will be able to understand. I'll give you good examples, you will be able to understand that. Okay, because ultimately, whenever we are talking of any economy for that matter, this particular thing will always be there, depreciation in economy you will always be getting at various point in time. So we have to talk about that. So there is a concept or a phenomena of depreciation. Gaadi kharidi ho to you will realize that concept of depreciation. Now what is depreciation? Any asset, not whether all the assets like the gold price go up, that's different thing, but a capital asset, a capital asset like machines, capital asset for example I'm telling you, like the car or machine you have, है ना, or tools or equipments, etc, etc, etc. So the capital assets, over a period of time, it happens what? Wear and tear, aging. So capital assets you are using, what will happen? Their wear and tear happens. Wear and tear, ghisai, in Hindi we call it ghisai, wear and tear happens. And because of wear and tear is what we see, that their value goes down. You understand this concept? Any capital asset which you are using as a factor of production, you are using it regularly, wear and tear is happening, their value is going down. This concept is known as depreciation. Firstly, understand this thing. So depreciation is reduction in the value of any fixed capital assets over a period of time as they are being used in the production process. Like a machine in a factory will become less efficient in the next 2 years. Its value will also go down. Delivery truck will lose its value every year because of its aging. Laptop become outdated in 3 to 4 years because of the new technology. So you got to understand this thing, that whenever we are calling this particular thing, we have to understand, whenever we understand this particular, so firstly depreciation concept is very much important in the economy. You got to understand this thing. So when we have calculated GDP, we calculated what? Total value of goods and services produced within a country in a particular year. But we did not calculate the value which was lost in that particular year of the capital assets we already had. Are you understanding? So ये concept समझ आया कि नहीं? So have you understood this concept of depreciation? I hope that what is depreciation? A capital asset which is losing the value, it is depreciation. Now understand bete, I take you to the concept of NDP and NNP. Now what is it? Let's try to understand. Firstly, let me tell you, during the process of production, capital produced in the previous period gradually wear out. But the GDP does not take that into account, and that is why it is not providing us the real picture of the production in the particular economy. Getting it? So the loss of capital we are not focusing upon. The machine which was 1 crore rupees, now it is 70 lakh rupees, 30 lakhs we have lost. So that is why when we are taking that, so basically when you are taking GDP and you are minusing the depreciation, you are subtracting depreciation, you are getting the concept of NDP, that is net domestic product. Similarly, you take GNP and you subtract depreciation, you get the NNP. Are you understanding this thing? So you have to understand this thing, that the capital goods which we have in the economy, they are gradually losing their value over a period of time. And that is why it is very much important to take that into account. And when you take that into account, you are calculating this particular idea and you're getting this clear-cut picture in your mind, which is of course important. I hope this idea is 100% clear. So in short, when I talk about the NDP, you just have to understand this thing, that during the process of production, capital produced in the previous year is wearing out, but the GDP is not taking it into account, and when we take it into account, we get a term known as NDP. It's very much important. So GDP minus depreciation is what? NDP. Very simple. GDP minus depreciation. So you just have to subtract the depreciation and you will be getting this term. And similarly, when you say GNP minus depreciation is NNP, simply. So GNP minus depreciation is NNP. So you are subtracting what? It can be derived by subtracting the depreciation for GNP, as simple as that. Nothing is there to be worried about. So simply put, you have to understand GDP, you subtract the depreciation, you get the NDP. GNP, you subtract the depreciation, you get the NNP. Now don't get confused when you have these terms in the exam, because they are super easy for you guys. Yeah. Clear है सबको? चलिए. Now, when we talk about the GDP, we also come across a term known as GVA. We'll be talking about that. But firstly, let me see how many of you have understood this depreciation wali thing. Because these are important topics. Shabash. The comment section is open, you can ask. That was very easy, right? If GDP, GNP is clear, then this is also clear. So for the NFIA, we have to subtract the income of the foreign. Yes, absolutely, we have to do that. Yes. Net factor income from abroad is income earned by the Indian firms outside India and income earned by the foreign firms inside India. We just subtract them. Yeah, there's a difference. Clear, got it, clear, clear. Let's go a bit faster. Yeah, देखो fast थोड़ा भी चलूँगा ना, then you will say sir slower. Then I think this is a decent speed. I've explained that. I'll explain that once again. Don't worry. Explain the example. But example I've given you, na, car's value comes down, machine's value come down. Yes, Vishwajit, absolutely. So calculating depreciation, it is done at individual level only. NDP, NNP I've told you already. You calculate GDP, you minus depreciation, that is NDP. You calculate GNP, then you minus that, then it becomes the NNP. That's it. NFI is nothing. That is what I've told you. See the example. NFI was what? Okay. NFI is net factor income from abroad. The income which Indians are making outside India and the income which foreigners are making inside India, we just subtract that from each other. The difference is basically NFI. Usi ka the difference NFI. Got it? When you'll revise na, after the class, you'll be getting each and everything precisely. Don't worry. In the beginning, you may have a bit of a doubt, but when you keep on revising things, you will be in a position to understand each and everything. Just hold on. Yeah, just have a look at this. Net factor income from abroad, I'll just explain once again. Difference between the factor income received from the rest of the world and the factor income paid to the rest of the world. So basically, factor income from abroad, that is, residents of a country from the rest of the world, they're earning. And then we have got factor income to abroad. That is factor income which the normal resident of other country are, doing in the economic territory of India. So it's basically the difference. So that is why I gave you that particular example of this map. Here, what do you see? American companies making 40 rupees goods and services. Indian companies making 70 rupees goods and services outside India. So we are subtracting from each other. The difference is what? 30 rupees. That is what net factor income from abroad is. NFIA wahi hai. That basically is the NFIA. As simple as that. So I am hopeful that now you guys are in a position to understand these very facts. ये clear हुआ कि नहीं हुआ ये बता दो. So everyone should have a decent understanding about these things, because trust me, these are the aspects which are definitely very much important. So they are very basic points, but they are quite important. Shabash. Okay. So see, I'm going slow because a lot of students say, sir, ये समझ नहीं आया, वो समझ नहीं आया. So I need to go slow at times. Yeah. So whenever we talk about GDP deflator ka concept, it is very much important for us to understand. GVA though I can take in other class also, but these are the things which we have to understand in this class only. GDP and GNP, because this is the class dedicated to that only. For example, so a lot of students did have a issue with this concept also. So when we talk about the GDP at current price and GDP at constant price, so what is that? GDP at current price is basically the nominal GDP, and GDP at constant price is the real GDP. You know this thing. So current price measure the GDP using the actual prices we notice in the economy. Current price make no adjustment for the inflation, and that is why they already include inflation, and that is why at current price you get the nominal GDP. But at the constant price we adjust the effect of the inflation. We use the constant price which enable us to measure the actual change in the output. That is why we get the real GDP. Now I think it is absolutely clear. What is the difference between the GDP at current prices, that is nominal GDP, and at the constant prices, that is the real GDP. Yeah. So that is what I told you na already, that GDP deflator is what? It is implicit price deflator only. So it is basically the nominal GDP upon real GDP. So it is a ratio. That is what the GDP deflator is. I think we have talked about that already. We have already talked about this thing precisely. इसमें तो I don't think you have any doubts. Got it? So I am hopeful, now these very things are absolutely clear. Well, you guys don't have any doubt in, these aspects, because these are very much clear to you guys. I hope that. All of you. ये चीजें आ गई समझ? See, this class is dedicated to this only, that you have to have a proper clarity. Yeah. Now at times they say GDP at factor cost, GDP at market cost. So what is that? Let me tell you that also. Just the last concept for the day. So this nominal real GDP is to 100% clear. I assume that. Now have a look at this. Whenever we talk about the journey of a product, there is a producer who has a factory, there is a wholesaler, and then we have a retailer, the shop from where you buy. So factor cost is received by the producer when he or she sells the good. So there is a factory owner, and he is receiving the factor cost. So it will include what? It will include all the values of factors of production. That is the rent he gave, the wages he gave to the people, the interest he paid, the profit he made, everything. So basically it is over there. So he paid some rent for the place. He gave wages to the labor. He is, giving the interest as well. And then he is making some profit as well on that thing. Now you got to understand this thing, because indirect taxes are also imposed. But at the same time, some subsidies are also given. So you got to understand, later we have a proper market price. And that market price is borne by you and me, that is the consumer. That is very much important. So when we talk about the factor cost is this at the gate of the factory. And when we talk the market price is this. So remember, market price is the final price that is borne by the consumer of that particular product. So if you are a producer, you will take into account what is the rent you are paying, what are the wages you are paying to the employees, what is the interest you are paying for the capital you have taken from the bank, and what the profits you want to add. So it is all a part of the factor cost, whatever you are making. So you are going to be including everything in that, right? So this is what you need to always look into, that, whenever you're building something, a product, so you have to take these things into account. Hanji, samajh aaya? So I'm hopeful that I'm making these concepts very much clear for you guys. All of you are able to understand the nitty-gritties which are involved. And all in all, see, my idea is that you should have a proper understanding of things rather than just cramming. That doesn't really, help. Just the cramming part, you have to have a proper understanding. बहुत important. So you have decent understanding, you're good to go always. So I'll now open the comment section once and for all. So let me see if you guys have any doubts. Then we'll be wrapping the session up. So market price and factor cost is clear, right? पूछो. Take care. Thank you so much. Yeah, now I'll be giving you the time for the screenshot. Don't worry. Yeah, absolutely. GDP previous slide. Screenshot starting से मैं दे दूँगा. Don't worry about that. Explain the factor cost again. Factor cost is, you are a factory owner. So how much does that cost is coming to you? What is the cost for you producing that plus your profits? That is what the factor cost is. Yeah, absolutely, Saru. So GNP is basically Indian companies who are working there producing goods and services. Even individual may be producing goods and services, that will also be included in the India. Yeah, current slide you can see once again. No issues. You can see once again. Okay? So basically, for your examination, you just have to make sure that your concepts are clear. And ultimately, that is what is going to be helping you in the examination. So I'll be helping you take the screenshots from here because उससे पहले के तो आपने ले ही लिए होंगे. So you can take the screenshots from here, बेटे. GDP deflator we have talked, and net factor income from abroad you can take the screenshot. Everyone can take the screenshot. Yep. Clear? So this is the depreciation concept. You can take the screenshot. Yep. Now the next one. Can take the screenshot. NDP, NNP. I told you, depreciation minus from GDP. You get the NDP and GNP minus depreciation NNP. Next. So this was that concept once again explained. Again, the same concept explained. And then we did talk about we did talk about the market price and the factor cost. What is the difference? Then I told you again about the GDP at the current price, that is nominal GDP, and the GDP constant at real GDP. Then we talk about the GDP deflator once again. And this is the estimation national income. This is just a factual thing. You can take a screenshot and read that. That basically Dadabhai Naoroji was the person who wrote Poverty and British Rule in India. It was the first attempt to calculate the national income, and then we have had various attempts. So you can take the screenshot of this as well. You can read that. So tomorrow we'll be starting the economic planning in India, the 5-year plans basically, that is what the plan is. So tomorrow we'll be starting with that. Okay. So that is very much it from my side. I hope you enjoyed the session and take care everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Thank you.